Доброго вечора! Вітаємо вас на черговому випуску програми «Форум ТВ».
Сьогодні ми розмовляємо з кандидатом на посаду мера міста Торонто, паном Джоном Торі. Ми раді, що він сьогодні загостив до телестудії «Форум ТВ». John, welcome to our studio, and thank you for taking time out of your busy campaign schedule to appear on Forum TV.
Thank you.
I wanted to start by having our viewers get to know you a little better. You've been involved in politics for a very good part of your life, both on the municipal and provincial levels. And currently you, according to many of the polls, are in the lead with your competitors sort of vying for second place. As we move closer to the election and voters start to scrutinize candidates a little bit more, what makes John Tory the ideal person for the position of mayor in our city at this juncture in the city's history?
I think more so than anything else may be my ability to work with the members of City Council. In our system, you have to be able to work with City Council to get things done. We've seen when you can't get along with City Council, with Rob Ford the last little while, that things aren't very productive. I think as well you have to get along with the other governments in Canada, the provincial government and the federal government. They have the money. And so I think that I represent the best chance for there to be a council that gets along with each other and a mayor who gets along with the other two governments, the Harper Conservative government and the Wynne Liberal government. I think beyond that, my skills and experience in management, the fact that I will be able to run the city better, I think will be something that people will notice the difference in terms of both their money and their tax dollars, but also just getting things done like building transit and addressing some of the traffic issues.
John, I wanted to ask you about some of the work you've done with the various ethnocultural communities. What sort of issues and topics have come up in the discussions you've had with them? What issues are of concern to them that are also on your radar?
Well, what I find, of course, is that almost every group cares about the issues I've talked about. Jobs. They're very concerned about jobs for themselves and more particularly for their children. They're concerned about transit and traffic a lot. They're concerned about taxes. So, I mean, everybody cares about those things. But I will say, for example, when it comes to the Ukrainian community, I've heard a lot about some of the international issues, and I've tried to speak up in support of really what is a desperate crying out for some justice and accountability on the part of Mr. Putin in particular, who is, I think, a very dangerous person in the world of 2014. And we forget sometimes that there are people like that you have to not just keep an eye on, but you have to do something about. I've heard more kind of emotional, personal concerns from people about something like a monument that the Ukrainian community would like to have.
For the famine genocide.
Yes, this is something where they're saying, look, in a great big city like this, surely there could be a place, that is a place that is accessible to people and a place of some respect and prominence where we could have a monument. And my answer to that would be, well, yes, surely there is. So instead of just having endless debates about it, let's get on with deciding where it should be and having that kind of thing happen. These are the kinds of things, they raise the big issues with me, jobs, transit, traffic, taxes, but they also raise these other issues that are of maybe more particular concern to each individual community, and those are a couple of the ones that are raised, the current international situation and the monument by the Ukrainian community, and I'm pledged to act on both. I think we can find a place for that monument, and we should be standing up and speaking up for our friends and for people who are just trying to live their lives in Ukraine when Mr. Putin is trying to be up to his bad behavior and causing trouble over there.
I'm sure you've heard this question posed at least 3-4 times. Unfortunately, I'm going to flog it one more time and ask, as you know, very often we hear from the Ukrainian community a great deal of concern about Russia Today, RT. Given your experience in that field, how best do you feel that entire issue can be pursued? How do we secure democracy, freedom of speech, and still not allow this type of what many people view to be a propaganda mechanism to be automatically included in people's viewers' packages?
I think we've read a lot about how Mr. Putin has used, I would say, when I say skillfully, I mean, he's done what people like him do, which is they get control of the media first so they can control the message. And I think it's obvious that Russia Today is a propaganda tool for him, not just in Russia, but around the world more particularly. And I think we have to be mindful of that, but at the same time, careful to not assume we, whether it's you or me, or whether it's somebody at Bell or Rogers, should become the kind of the censors and the deciders of who gets to watch what. And so I think the best way to deal with this might well be to say, well, look, with Russia Today, in order to make sure only people who really want to order it and who accept the fact that it's propaganda, they might even like it, order that. And I think that would be best by having it taken out of these packages so it's not included with other stations that may be actually quite legitimate. I know that the community is pressing both the CRTC and the communications companies to do, and I think that would be sensible. And then it will allow the marketplace to decide in a kind of free speech market who wants to buy it and who doesn't. And you won't have people who want to get some other station forced to take this propaganda channel as well. So I hope that that resolves itself in a way that allows the marketplace to deal with this, but doesn't impose a lot of undue kind of censorship on a station, because that just creates a different controversy. Oftentimes you want one thing in the package, but you very much don't want another. But if you want the one you want, you have to take the other one. And I think that's interfering with people's ability to make a choice and even make a statement by saying, no, I don't want that channel on my television. And I think there's a fair number of people in the Ukrainian community and elsewhere who don't like that channel because they think it is, correctly think it's propaganda.
Well, I think it's a doable and needed option.
Yes.
John, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your vision of Toronto with our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Tory, on behalf of Buduchny's Credit Union, which is the largest Ukrainian-Canadian financial institution, the largest one in Canada, and the largest ethnic credit union in Ontario, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us present for coming, joining us today, and sharing your thoughts about the future of our city.
There's a map that sort of shows it right there. It goes from Etobicoke out here down to Union Station, and then from Union Station all the way up into Scarborough. And it goes to both Markham and Mississauga at both ends. And the reason you may say, well, why are we going to have a train? It's a Toronto project that's going to Markham and Mississauga. A lot of people work here, south of the airport, in the Airport Corporate Centre. There's 200,000 jobs there and 200,000 jobs in Markham. That's right. And a lot of the people who work in Markham live in Scarborough and presently have no way to get there on public transit.
There are other tracks, I guess there's CN and CP tracks, and could they be utilized too for...
They could. What Kathleen Wynne has said as provincial government policy is that they're eventually going to electrify all of the GO train lines. And of course, the GO train lines, if you looked at an entire map of those, they're like a spider's web all over the region. And her objective over time, and she ran the election campaign on this, so she's got a mandate to do it and put some considerable money in the budget that just passed in July, is to electrify all of those lines over time. I mean, you can't do. So I'm obviously going to be pressing her to electrify these two lines first. This is the Kitchener line here that goes out through Etobicoke, and that's the Stouffville line that goes up through Scarborough. So I'd say pick these two first, because it then provides a solution for the city of Toronto, 416, to have this entire train run through the city. But eventually the objective is to do all of the GO train lines, so they will all be electrified, and you could have all kinds of trains that would serve people all day. I think the mood is for that, and the use of technology and the use of law enforcement to get traffic moving, but not to build expressways. I think people are saying, look, if you're going to build something and invest money, build transit.
It is essential for our community to have a Holodomor monument established in Toronto. And of course, you know the Holodomor was the famine genocide that occurred in Ukraine in 1932-1933, during which millions perished. The League of Ukrainian Canadians and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress planned and implemented this project from the very beginning. The process has lasted for more than 2 years now. Speaker Levac, who also heads the Council of Internal Economy, has endorsed this project. This is something that we would certainly want your assistance in moving forward. Make a commitment, yes. This is the plot of land that we are allowing the Ukrainian community to establish its Holodomor monument on.
I have been asked about this before and have said that I would be supportive. I'm not aware of the precise details of exactly. I know of the discussions at Queen's Park and so forth because I've heard about it in the community. But I think it's perfectly proper that there should be such a place, and that it should be a place that is accessible and that is a place of respect and prominence. And so I would obviously be looking to try and advance the discussions that have taken all this time already rather than start over again.
And just a token little present.
Thank you. That's very nice. And I will thank you.
All. to you for attending.
I will use that because it has probably has a notebook in it, does it?
Yes, it does.
And I go to a lot of these kinds of meetings that are like the one I had with the cultural leaders this morning, and I fill these up very quickly. Well, I do because I write these things down because people have a lot of great ideas about things you should be doing in the city, and so that will be put to good use. And I thank you, and I wish you well. I mean, to me, you know, organizations like this, which are really still much more entrepreneurial, you know, than, I mean, my sister works for one of the big banks, and, you know, the big banks have their role to play, but these organizations are much more entrepreneurial and much more sort of grassroots, and they're to be admired for all the different things they do and for how they
Well,
remain.
thank you. Ours is a 60-year plus history. We have 22,000 members, and we are an Ontario credit union. Credit unions are Ontario legislated, and we have branches in Ottawa and Hamilton and in the GTA. So
Excellent. Well, good luck with everything. Thank you for your time today. It was interesting to hear the kinds of things that you're interested in, and I hope that you'll take a look at the different things that I stand for. They're on my website.
Ця частина програми Форум ТІВІ спонсорована кредитовою спілкою «Будучність».
Шановні члени Будучності та гості, вітаємо вас. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to the headquarters of Будучність Credit Union, Canada's largest Ukrainian financial institution and the largest ethnic-based credit union in Ontario. Today, in communities all across Canada, exactly 100 plaques will be unveiled from coast to coast as part of Project 100, Project 100, an initiative that was conceived by the Ukrainian Canadian Civil Liberties Association to mark the 100th anniversary of the implementation of the War Measures Act, which paved the way for Canada's first internment operations. As an institution whose Ukrainian Canadian members helped lay the financial and community foundations of this great country, we're honored to be one of the sites that will display this historic plaque.
Between 1914 and 1920, thousands of men, women, and children were branded as enemy aliens by the federal government of Canada. Many were rounded up and interned in forced labor camps. The majority of these people were Ukrainians who were arrested not for what they had done, but simply because they had immigrated to Canada from territories occupied by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. These people lost everything. Their families were devastated. The internment of thousands of innocent Ukrainians was a tragedy which had a profound and lasting effect on the Ukrainian community in Canada. Thanks to the efforts of a number of Ukrainian community organizations, the federal government, the conservative federal government, introduced bill and passed Bill C-331 in 2005 and created a Canadian First World War Internment Recognition Fund, which was designed to recognize and redress this terrible injustice. Today, we are gathered here to remember and commemorate this sad episode in Canada's history.
The Ukrainian people and those of Ukrainian origins have suffered a lot and are suffering a lot even today. It is important that there are plaques. It is important that there is awareness of what is happening, what has happened to the Ukrainians. May the people that had been interned be remembered for their suffering, for their contributions to Canada. And many of them are laying in Canadian soil. Wieczna im pamięć.
100 years ago, a terrible travesty took place. The internment of many thousands of people because of their origin, because of who they were, where they had come from. To have those people lose everything that they owned, to subject them to forced labor, to separate families was a terrible travesty. And it is so important that we recognize that history, because when we recognize that a terrible wrong has taken place, we are saying never again. We never want that to happen again. But I want to say, you know, we're standing here in the credit union, the largest credit union, the home of the largest credit union, created by the Ukrainian community. And to me, it shows the determination, the strength, and the creativity, the determination to contribute to Canadian society of people of Ukrainian origin. And we are in a community with so many landmarks that recognizes how much the Ukrainian Canadian community has given back to this country and how much it has built this country. Thank you very much.
Ця частина програми Форум ТІВІ спонсорована кредитовою спілкою «Будучність». Ця частина програми спонсорована компанією Cantor Currency Exchange.
В кредитовій спілці «Будучність» продовжувалася церемонія відкриття офіційної таблиці для вшанування пам'яті українців, інтернованих під час Першої світової війни.
Today, what we're commemorating, as Peggy said, is her horrific event. And we remember that the people that were interned were those who built Canada. These were the farmers, these were the small business people, these were the workers who actually built the country that then turned on them and imprisoned them in what was called, by the way, at the time, concentration camps. That's what they were called, and that's what they were. This is indeed an incredibly dark moment in Canadian history. I'll use some Latin, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. That is what all Canadians need to say today to Ukrainian neighbors and friends and family, because this is part of our heritage too. And we need to commemorate not only the brilliant works of Ukrainians, but also our shame as a country in the way that you have been treated. Peggy also said, though, it has a happy ending. You are the happy ending of this story. You and your children and your grandchildren and places like this incredible credit union. So thank you for hosting. Thank you for being part of this day. And here's to exactly that this never happen again. Will never happen again as long as we, who are Canadians not of Ukrainian descent, can say we're sorry, and as long as you can remind us to do so.
What we are witnessing today is a dramatic change in Canada of our perception of the world. We recall that at the time when the internment occurred, Ukraine declared its independence. From 1918 to 1920 approximately, that country fought to be recognized by the world. It wasn't recognized. At the Treaty of Versailles, again, it was divided. And even today, as we see the struggle after almost a quarter of a century of independence, once again, the monster of that ugly head of hatred, intolerance, chauvinism, xenophobic sort of nationalism, again is trying to stifle that. And the forces beyond the countries of these independent states are again creating serious problems. Canada is a beacon of hope. We are a very diverse society. We have changed drastically. There was a time when an elected member of parliament by the name of Louis Riel was executed because he fought for the rights of his Métis people. There was a time when a boatload of Jews who were escaping persecution in Germany tried to have the right to be accepted by Canada were turned back because we did not want to give them refuge. The majority died in Nazi concentration camps. That was a Canada in those days. The Legislative Assembly of Ontario, of which you, Sherry, and I have served, and you are serving as members, in 1945 declared a township north of Sudbury in the name of Joseph Stalin because he was an ally. And anybody who fought the Stalinist communist system was labeled as a fascist. Again, that label again is being used against those Ukrainians who are trying to safeguard their independence. So today, as we watch the world unfolding, there are still conflicts. Our diverse society has, for example, the issue of Albanians in Kosovo. We addressed it. The Tibetans in China. The situation that we find today of the Kurdish people in Iran. These are issues whose peoples are here as citizens of Canada, and we have to be very careful that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past, be it issues in the Middle East or any other corner of the world. And so we thank you, Peggy and Sherry, because you represent a non-partisanship, which is the real aspect of human relationship. There is no partisanship when it comes to defending liberties, human rights. We are all united. Whatever differences we may have on other issues, we are united. And so we thank you for being present here, and we thank certainly the evolution, and hopefully that this commemoration will be a warning that these shameful periods of our past, that these mistakes be not repeated again. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I'd like to quote the words of a Ukrainian-Canadian woman who, as a young girl, had been imprisoned with her family in an internment camp in Spirit Lake, Quebec. In 1988, when she learned of the efforts being made by the Ukrainian and other communities to raise awareness of the injustices that had taken place, she said, and I quote, "Your campaign should not be about money. It should be about memory." There is no doubt that today's plaque unveiling here and in 99 other sites across Canada is a reflection of those very words. It is an important step in ensuring that this sad episode in Canadian history and the lessons learned remain etched forever in our collective memory.
Ця частина програми спонсорована компанією Cantor Currency Exchange.
А зараз познайомимо вас з подіями, запланованими у нашій громаді.
Ця частина програми спонсорована фірмою Custom Heritage Building, щоб ремонтувати або збудувати хату ваших мрій.
Закликаємо громаду підтримати фонд допомоги родинам загиблих героїв. Не будьмо байдужими, пораненим потрібне лікування, а родинам загиблих треба допомогти. Грошові пожертви приймаємо в будь-якому відділі кредитової спілки «Будучність» на рахунок 67568 Євромайдан 2013. Повідомляємо про один із найновіших проєктів, спонсорованих кредитовою спілкою «Будучність», а саме видання пам'ятної книги «Небесна сотня» збірки віршів з Майдану. Дохід з продажу книги буде спрямований у фонд «Небесна сотня», який відкритий в кредитовій спілці «Будучність» для допомоги родинам загиблих героїв. З ініціативи Ліги українців Канади і Ліги українок Канади створено колектив «Приятелі Збройних сил України» з метою надання гуманітарної допомоги військовослужбовцям України. Приєднайтеся до колективу, складіть пожертву на рахунок FUDF Fund number 68139 у кредитовій спілці «Будучність» або чек до канцелярії краєвої управи Ліги українців Канади на 9 Plastics Avenue, Торонто. Адміністративний комітет музичних ансамблів осередку спілки української молоді в Торонто запрошує бажаючих приєднатися до оркестру «Батурин» або до ансамблів «Жайвір», «Пролісок» і «Діброва». Українсько-канадський дослідчо-документаційний центр запрошує на презентацію нових видань «Between Hitler and Stalin» і «Незвичайні долі звичайних жінок» 5 вересня о 7 годині вечора в Театрі Інституту Святого Володимира 620 Spadina Avenue. Вписатися до ансамблю пісні і танцю «Чайка» в Гамільтоні можна 5 вересня о 7 годині вечора в залі «Уно» на 170 Parkdale Avenue North. Отавське українське товариство гольфу запрошує на 31-й турнір 6 вересня у Meadows Golf and Country Club на 4335 Hawthorne Road, вечеря о 5:30 в залі Собору Святого Івана на Green Valley Crescent. Український день спадщини буде відзначений в Сент-Кеттерінс 6 вересня від 3 пополудні у центрі Святого Івана на 91 Lakeshore Road. Український день спадщини з виступом професора Любомира Луцюка буде відзначений 7 вересня о 2 годині пополудні перед парламентом провінції Онтаріо в Квінс Парк, опісля прийняття в Інституті Святого Володимира на 600 Spadina Avenue. Коаліція Україна-Канада запрошує взяти участь у демонстрації протесту проти канадських інвестицій в Росію 8 вересня о 8:45 годині ранку на північно-західному розі вулиць Bay and King. Наступна зустріч Торонської генеалогічної групи відбудеться 9 вересня о 7:30 вечора в приміщенні Інституту Святого Володимира на 620 Spadina. Канадська українська фундація влаштовує бенкет United for Ukraine Gala з особливим гостем достойним Стівеном Гарпером 11 вересня о 5:30 вечора в приміщенні Toronto Congress Center на 650 Dixon Road. Торонський український фестиваль відбудеться від 12 до 14 вересня на вулиці Bloor West від Glendonville Road до Jane Street. На фестивалі буде представлена виставка, присвячена Майданові. Серед численних виконавців будуть виступати гурт «Тік» з України і танцювальний ансамбль «Шумка» з Едмонтону. Зустріч із гуртом «Тік» відбудеться 13 вересня о 3 годині пополудні в приміщенні UCU Wealth Strategies at 2265 Bloor Street West. Українське національне об'єднання запрошує на турнір гольфу 16 вересня о 12:30 пополудні в Royal Woodbine Golf Club на 195 Galaxy Road. Вечеря в залі Уно на Evans Avenue. Українська католицька парафія Святого Іллі в Брамптон запрошує на турнір гольфу 20 вересня о 8 ранку у Mayfield Golf Club на 12552 Torbram Road, Caledon. Медіагрупа «Разом» запрошує на першу виставку українсько-канадських бізнесів 21 вересня в 50 години ранку в приміщенні Уно на Evans Avenue. Центр освіти і досліджень теми Голодомору запрошує на конференцію «Комунізм і голод» 26 вересня від 9 години ранку в Monk Center University of Toronto і 27 вересня від 1 пополудні в Інституті Святого Володимира. Перший Отавський міжнародний симпозіум візантійського мистецтва проходитиме в Отаві від 27 вересня до 1 жовтня. Українська католицька парафія Святого Йосифа в Оуквілл запрошує на український фестиваль 27 вересня від 10 години ранку на 300 River Oaks Boulevard East на розі Trafalgar Road. Забава з оркестрою «Заповідь» о 8 вечора. Український студентський клуб університету Райерсон запрошує на круїз з вечерею і забавою 27 вересня від 7 вечора до півночі. Конгрес українців Канади відділ у Віндзор повідомляє, що відзначення Дня Незалежності, попередньо заплановане на 24 серпня, перенесене на 28 вересня від 1 до 6 пополудні в Православному соборі на 1000 Tecumseh Road East. Програма «Форум ТВ» транслюється щонеділі о 8 годині вечора на Омні ТВ і повторюється двічі – в середу о 2 пополудні і в неділю о півдні. В провінції Альберта «Форум ТВ» транслюється по суботах о 12 годині опівдні, а у Ванкувері у неділю о 7 годині ранку. Всі попередні програми «Форум ТВ», починаючи з прем'єри 14 жовтня 2012 року, можна переглянути на YouTube. Електронну адресу можна знайти на нашій сторінці інтернету www.forumtv.ca. Просимо всі оголошення надсилати нам не пізніше, як тиждень перед виходом передачі на адресу info@forumtv.ca.
Ця частина програми спонсорована фірмою Custom Heritage Building, щоб ремонтувати або збудувати хату ваших мрій.
Ось і підійшла до завершення наша програма. Зичимо вам гарного тижня. До зустрічі на форумі.
Пам'ятаю час, коли лиш починався світ, хто міг, той підіймався та йшов, ішов собі високо в гори, взявши у похід.